Reina, and welcome to my channel. Here is where we discuss all things about pregnancy and then post-pregnancy, because I am currently 37 weeks pregnant, so I will have my baby girl hopefully in about 3 weeks, and then after that I am going to be focusing on raising her to be a bilingual child. So today's video is dedicated to all of the ways that I am thinking about using language, specifically Spanish, in my household for my daughter to become bilingual. And I want to start from day one. So here are some tools that I plan on using. Okay, so the first thing is nothing crazy. I'm sure that most bilingual moms are using this to raise their child to be bilingual, but of course I am going to be using lots of baby books and children's books in Spanish. I've already gotten a few, like I said in my last video, for my baby shower gifts. A lot of Emery's family members who are not bilingual, they're only English speaking, they gave me a lot of Spanish baby books, so I really do appreciate the support from his family. So I will definitely be focusing on using these to read to my baby. But I'm not only going to be using baby books. I am also a Spanish teacher. So as a Spanish teacher, I have a lot of resources for teaching Spanish. However, I was a high school Spanish teacher, not K through 8 or anything like that. But on Amazon, there are tons of storybooks and novels that are geared towards Spanish learning students. And they include kind of like vocab, and they range from like novice level to advanced level. And so even though these are geared towards Spanish students maybe in high school, maybe once she gets a little bit older, I plan on using these books to read to her. So, you just have to get creative. So if you're at like Goodwill is such a good place to find maybe like old Spanish textbooks that maybe focus a little bit more on reading or speaking and not just maybe grammar. I think those would be really cool resources to use as a bilingual mom raising a bilingual child. So all of my textbooks and books that I have that I use to teach my classes, I'm definitely going to be keeping, and I'm going to be using it with my baby as she grows up. Number 2 is I am going to be using my mother and my dad and my family basically as just like a Spanish learning tool. And that is, right now we live in a city where Emery's parents live, but my parents only live an hour away. So my goal is to be really, really conscious of how much time my child is spending with maybe each grandparent. Just because Emery's parents are closer, and of course it'd be so much easier if I need a babysitter to maybe like ask them to do it. But if it's for like a weekend night or something like that, then I really want to be conscious about who I'm asking to maybe babysit my child or look after my child. Even if it's for like 1 or 2 hours, Emery and I can always make a trip out somewhere out of town and make sure that my parents' house is like on the way where we're going and on the way back, so that it makes more sense for my parents to take care of her, because my parents are the Spanish speaking set of grandparents. And I'm not going to take away any time from the English speaking set of grandparents, because they live much closer and they are going to get to see her a lot. But I think just being conscious of how much time she's spending with and with whom will be really good as far as creating a learning environment, a rich learning environment for her to be in. Number 3 is actually social media. So as a Spanish teacher, I followed a lot of people online, especially, specifically Spanish teachers that would put resources and sell their resources on sites like Teachers Pay Teachers, or maybe they have their own blogs and they sell their resources online. And I not only followed high school teachers, but I also followed maybe preschool teachers or kindergarten teachers. And right now on Instagram, I'm actually following a lot of bilingual preschool teachers and a lot of bilingual speech therapists who have their, Instagram kind of catered towards bilingual parents. And they share a lot of bilingual resources as far as how to raise your child to be bilingual. So I'm going to put a couple of the ones that I like, either in the comments below or on the screen here. But what I suggest you do, if you are a bilingual mom or a bilingual parent who really wants extra resources, I would suggest going to my Instagram and then look at the people I follow and kind of look through their profiles to see which one you kind of connect with better. Because there are actually so many bilingual preschool teachers, bilingual kindergarten teachers, or 1st through 5th grade bilingual teachers who teach in kind of like a dual language school setting, and they offer so many resources online. Some of them are free and some of them you might have to pay a couple of bucks, but I think it's totally worth it, especially if you don't want to spend your whole day kind of creating your own set of resources. But these are professionals that have done all the work for you and have instructions on how to do things and have a lot of themed activities with what's going on in the year. Like right now there's a lot of Day of the Dead activities that are coming out. And so I think these are actually this is how social media can really make a great impact in your life and help you reach your goals. And again, it's not only bilingual teachers, but also bilingual speech pathologists. They offer so many great resources about knowing the developmental stages of your child and knowing what to expect from them, and knowing whether, basically knowing the facts about bilingualism and having a bilingual child. And they talk about things like language delay and how bilingualism can affect that or cannot affect that. So I really trust these professionals, and Instagram is helping me learn a lot through them. So again, go to my Instagram, Andy Bilingue, and then you can look at the people I follow and just kind of scroll through. Okay, number 4 is also kind of, I also found it through social media, but there are actually so many subscription boxes that you can get kind of like monthly, and you can sign up for it, that give you a lot of resources for helping your child be bilingual. I had no idea that this even existed until I started following all of these bilingual preschool teachers and bilingual speech pathologists. And they use these subscription boxes. The 2 that come to mind are Spanish Seeds Box and Hola Amigo Box, and there's tons more, but those are the 2 that I've mainly found on social media, and I've kind of followed them, and I plan on using their resources as soon as my baby is old enough to kind of be able to use what they offer. Even though I think even if the boxes are geared towards like older children, there's always ways for you to change the activities. But again, these subscription boxes you can sign up and you can get every month, and they come with like little book activities and like games, and just all these like arts and crafts kind of things. And it's all using Spanish with your child. So they are geared towards creating a bilingual environment through play, through arts and crafts, through reading. And again, it's not something that you have to spend your whole day creating a lesson, especially if you don't really have training as a teacher and you have, a full-time job and you come home at 7 o'clock. You don't want to be trying to think of like, hey, what am I going to do tonight with my child to foster their language ability? All you have to do is subscribe to the box, get your resources, and you have enough for the whole month to last you through. So again, I'm going to put their Instagram handle below, and you can check them out. Okay. Another thing, this is kind of going back to the basics that I know that probably most language or bilingual moms are doing. I talked about the books, but also I really want to use music as a way of learning, or just having audio around the house that is always in Spanish, especially during the day, because right now I'm going to be staying at home with my baby for the foreseeable future. I'm not sure what the future holds for me as far as whether being at home with my baby or not being at home with my baby. But for right now, when I am home with her, I really, I want to limit the amount of like screen time that she is exposed to. But the screen, she doesn't have to look at the screen to always be hearing Spanish, right? Because that's the beauty of things like Spotify, or maybe like Pandora or something. And it doesn't always have to be music. There are tons of Spanish podcasts that are on Spotify, and I just feel like the more I listen to Spanish things, the more my baby will be exposed to Spanish things. So I'm trying right now to make the switch of, if I'm watching news, I'm going to make sure that it's in Spanish. If I'm watching a YouTube video, maybe I'll try to find the same content but in Spanish. So I'm kind of training myself to find entertainment resources for my own purpose in Spanish, so that whenever my baby is with me and I have to listen to something or I have to read something, I know where to find that same information in Spanish, so that, again, I feel like the more exposed to it I make myself to the language, the more exposed to it my baby will be. So it's all about creating new tools for myself, which will hopefully help her as well. And then the last thing is that I'm actually going to be using my own resources to foster the language environment in our household. So I speak Spanish and English, and my husband basically only speaks English. I know that he's taken Spanish classes before, and he does have some vocab that is available to him, and he can sometimes, he can express himself with the language, but I know that he's a little bit shy too, just because he wants it to be perfect, even though that's not the goal of knowing a second language. But so for right now, it looks like what we're going to be doing is the method of bilingualism that is one parent, one language, which means I will be speaking in Spanish to her, he will be speaking in English to her, and hopefully we can stay pretty much consistent with that. However, when I talk to him, of course, it'll have to be in English. So there will be naturally more English in the household, especially if we're both home, because that's how he and I will need to communicate. But I do have another YouTube channel, and it's called The Language Movement, and that is where I create Spanish learning resources for independent Spanish learners and for Spanish teachers. And these resources are geared more towards advanced speakers and maybe heritage speakers. And I do like a Spanish podcast, and I print out the transcription, and I do comprehension questions and personal questions that people can do while they follow along. And I do that again with a podcast, and I do that with Spanish vocab vlogs too. So it's kind of very, very similar to the content that I create here, but there I created in Spanish, and I create resources that go along with it to enhance the learning of Spanish. So Emery knows that I do this. And so what I do, or what I've been doing, is every resource that I make, it's available on the blog, but I also make sure to print it out at home, and I have a binder of it in our office. And Emery knows where the binder is, and he knows that if he ever wants to learn Spanish, that it is right there for him. I do not want this desire for my daughter to be bilingual to become kind of like a battle between us, because he's English dominant and I'll be focusing on Spanish. I want us to be happy, and I want it to kind of be a natural journey. And I know there will probably be a few bumps along the way, but again, I'm saying all this because I don't want to put the pressure on him to want to learn Spanish. If he wants to, he has those resources with him, and he knows where they are, and he can go get them, or he can find another way to learn Spanish. But I will print out the resources for him and tell him that it's there. But again, I'm not going to be pressuring him to learn any Spanish at all. I am fine if he only ever speaks English, and I will focus on the Spanish. And I know that that might affect my goals. It might affect like the actual language acquisition of my daughter, but I also want to have a happy marriage. So that's one tool that I will be using, and then one thing that I will not be doing in order to create this bilingual environment that I want my daughter to live in. And one last thing, I'm not sure if I said last thing in the last one, but I promise you this is the last thing. I really want to focus on community. So where we are now, there is a very large Hispanic community here, and there's always events going on, such as, this Saturday there's the Dia de los Muertos, like little festival happening in an art gallery, and so I'm going to be going to that, and I just want to continue kind of supporting the Hispanic community in my city, so that as my child grows up, there will be kind of like a thriving Hispanic community that she can connect with. And again, that's not only for the language aspect of it, but for the cultural and identity aspect of it, because I really want her to be proud of who she is. So I feel like if I do my best to support the community around me that is similar to her in heritage and background and language, that it will just it will make her feel better about who she is and where she is. And so again, supporting community as kind of like a selfish way of supporting my daughter too. So things like going to any festival that has kind of like a Hispanic theme to it, or going to stores that are Hispanic owned. I planned on really doing my research about what's going on in our city or maybe nearby cities that we can attend to and we can bring our daughter to, so that she feels seen and she feels recognized, and that the community does too. And again, if we support each other, we can all grow up in this beautiful multicultural, multi-language world. Okay, so those are some of the things that I really want to focus on as I raise my bilingual daughter. And I'm sure there are 1,000 other things that I could do. So if you are a bilingual mom and you have already been raising your child, and you already have some tools that you would like to share with me, please put them down below. I really want to read about them, hear about them, because right now this is just me planning for the future, and who knows, and really who knows what the future holds, right? So I really appreciate your support, your help, and your experience is very valuable. So please share it with me. I'm happy to learn from you guys, and I hope you like this video, and if you do, make sure you hit like, make sure you subscribe. What did I say? Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next video. Bye!